What is up, guys? IceBear Gaming here. I'm going to be talking to you about one of my most favored and treasured games that I've ever played in terms from the PS3 and PS4, Destiny. Now, I've had a lot of great moments while playing this game, and I would have to say it is probably one of my most probably clocked, maybe hundreds of maybe thousands of hours so far into this game because I enjoyed it that much. Now, if PlayStation had the ability to be able to see how much time you've actually invested into a game, I probably would know from PS3 and PS4. But this is probably one of my most favorite games, mostly due to the fact that I did not get into the hype train about this game. I didn't go in with it with any big expectations because I wasn't really all that interested in it when it was originally released back in 2013 or 2014. And my friend Josh, otherwise known as Alpine Stars, originally got me this game because he let me borrow his copy one day whenever he left my house, and he said, just give it a try. If anything, if you don't like it, just give me back my copy and whatever then, but if you enjoy it, I can go and pick you up a copy if you really want to. Alright, fine, I'll give it a try. And once I tried it, I didn't mind it. I actually fairly enjoyed it. And now my first character I made back whenever I played on PS3 was a hunter, and I mostly ran Blade Dancer because I was mostly a medic, and once you crouch for a certain amount of time, you can go invisible to be able to go out and actually heal your teammates that are down. Now, one of the other things that I enjoyed about Destiny was the whole leveling up system, going out and progressing and grabbing new and better gear to advance your character along with making him stronger and more powerful. Now, I enjoyed the newer way of leveling up, whenever Taken King was released and you can infuse stronger gear into the current gear that you're wearing that may be a little bit better than the one that you had, but it was stronger in terms. Like, the new gear that you got was stronger, so you would put the power from that gear into your older gear that you are currently wearing to make it stronger. Now, one of my other favorite things from Destiny itself was the raids. Now, I never really got to do that much raiding whenever I first started playing back on the PS3, mostly due to the fact that we never really had a group. But my favorites would have had to been Vogue, mostly due to the fact that I love the lore, I love the story behind it whenever I started reading the Grimoire cards, and I also watched a few of the videos from like Sir Wobble or Sir Wally or whatever, and I watched his videos about the lore behind Vogue and everything. It's probably one of my most favored and treasured raids because that was the very first raid that probably most of us have ever played. Next would have to be King's Fall. I didn't really get to play that until after, not King's Fall, Crota's End. Whenever that officially launched, I never got to play it because I skipped right to House of Wolves to be able to play that instead, mostly due to the fact that I've heard The Dark Below wasn't all that good, so I kind of skipped out on it and I was like, it's whatever. And plus my friend, actually no, my cousin had it downloaded on his system, so me and him were game sharing it, and we did a lot of Prisons of Elders and everything like that as well. But if I had to say, Crota would be my second favorite because after playing it, it was a very good raid. One, it was short. Two, you can get a lot of good gear like Black Hammer, Abyss Defiant, the shotgun. I think that's a Swordbreaker, if I'm not mistaken. It's the one I was just using in that clip there. It would probably be those weapons because outside of the Vogue weapons, Crota's weapons looked the most interesting with the hive kind of material built onto it and it being used against the hive. And a lot of the times you were fighting the hive, most of the times whenever you were playing Destiny, whether it be on Earth or Moon, except for Venus and Mars. But if I had to say with King's Fall wasn't necessarily my favorite. I do remember back whenever it first dropped though. Now, King's Fall, me, JJ, Josh, Lieutenant Mike, and like 2 other people, we got together at like 7 o'clock in the evening, maybe even 6 o'clock, to do this raid, which was King's Fall at the time. They all got mad, they were getting frustrated and everything like that. Josh had to leave early, otherwise known as Alpine Stars. He had to leave early because he was at my place, and we were like, yo, let's do the raid, we got this, we can do it. And Lieutenant Mike left because we walked away to go get food. He got really butthurt about it and was saying that we keep leaving, we keep on up and disappearing, da 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 da, and he just left. So we had to go find someone else at the time, which didn't really bother us whatsoever. We were just like, screw it, it's just, we can find someone else. And me and JJ stick through it, and we got like pretty much we got a whole bunch of just random people until we finally had a squad that stuck with us, which it was Blaze, Dr. Catman, and it was me, JJ, Dr. Catman, Blaze, someone else and someone else. I think Cosmic was one, if I remember his name correctly. It was started with a K or a C. But we stuck at that raid until about 5:30 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, I should say. And we were up doing that until about 5:30 in the morning, and that was crazy. And we eventually beat it. And after that, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to bed. And
Yes, sir.
as far as Wrath of Machine goes, the newest raid that was released with the Rise of Iron, it's alright. I didn't mind it too much. It didn't take that long to beat once we understood what to do, but it's not one of my top favorites. I enjoyed the raid. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it wasn't my favorite raid out of all of them. If anything, it would be Vogue, Crota's End, King's Fall, and then Wrath of Machine. Well, actually, no. It would be Vogue, Crota's End, and Prisons of Elders, which I'll be talking about here in a second. Even though it wasn't technically a raid, it still felt like one because you were still going in there and going after the bosses and loot and yada yada yada, and going in there just to kill the boss to get a really good piece of gear that you actually need to progress in Destiny, because back then you had to get stuff that had light that was higher than what you had. So if you had like a gear that had like 27 light, you would have to get something like 28 or higher to be able to progress in your light level system, because that's how it used to be back then. It wasn't just infused until you get like a defense that was higher than what you have currently to be able to progress. You had to be able to grab a piece of gear that was higher in light in terms of defense. It wouldn't be defense, it would be more light based. Which wasn't bad, it just took forever to level up because you literally had to find a piece of gear. Even if it was ugly, it would give you some sort of advantage in some sort of way. Prisons of Elders, which was the DLC that I bought with the House of Wolves, I enjoyed it fairly much. Mostly due to the fact was right about that time, it was about the time whenever I got my very first exotic weapon, which was Red Death. And after I got its perk, whoo man, because back then you couldn't really be able to level up with motes of light like you could like you can currently. You actually had to work with the weapon and spend time with the weapon and level it up fully to be able to get that exotic perk. But nowadays people just throw in like 20 or 30 motes of light, and with some sort of cloak, mark, or bond that would be able to progress with the weapon that you have currently, like something that would boost your level with your assault rifle or scout rifle or pulse rifle, something like that that would make it level up quicker whenever you use your motes of light. And getting my first G-Horn was probably one of my most memorable moments because it dropped for me on my birthday, and I still remember the strike. It was Tanix the Scarred, I think. And right at the end there, it was me, Josh, otherwise known as Alpine Stars, and Paper Dragoon one of our friends, Zach, who also has a channel and everything as well, and we were doing that, and as soon as the mission ended, it showed that I got Gallahorn, and boy were they ever pissed, because I didn't really want it. I wanted other weapons at the time because I rather have a primary exotic than I would a secondary or heavy slot used for the exotic. But after using it, I enjoyed it. I really liked the weapon, but it wasn't really my type of style. And the other things that I enjoyed the most was after Taken King dropped, we started doing a lot more strikes using, like, going in there. It was normally me, Josh, and JJ, or it would be me, JJ, and Darkness, who you've also seen from some of my live streams or some of my videos that I've done in the past. Like, we would just go in there and just have a whole bunch of fun. And nowadays people don't like doing the strikes because they're boring and repetitive and all that other stuff. Like, I still find it fun. Most of the other guys still find it fun. I'm just wondering why the Destiny community fell out of doing the strikes and started doing PvP. Probably because they think it's probably starting to dry up and there's not really a whole lot of content, which I still see, like, after coming back for not touching this game for so long. Like, the reason why I stopped is because once I got transferred over, once I started doing work and working on second shift, I couldn't be able to get a hold of any of my friends to be able to play Destiny, because by the time I'm getting off work, well, by the time I'm going into work, they're getting off school and work and doing whatever else. So I never really had time to be able to talk to my friends, to be able to say, hey, let's start up a game of Destiny. Okay, let's do it. We'll shoot for this time. Just my thoughts. The soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack in Destiny is amazing. If you've owned it on PS3, and if you're still playing on PS3, put in Destiny's disc without loading up the game. Just scroll over it and just hear the calm melodies of the startup screen and just relax. That's just the music that I can think of whenever I used to play on PS3, and just hearing that music at the start, like whenever you would scroll over it and you would just see Destiny pop up and it had the music playing in the background, it was just one of the best experiences that I can think of before starting up the game. Now, the voice actor, with Peter Dinklage being the voice of the Ghost back in year one, he didn't really put a lot of enthusiasm into the part of playing like the Ghost. And now with Nolan North coming from the Taken King DLC, he put a lot more spunk and a lot more enthusiasm into the Ghost's acting and how he should be. Especially in this level here, whenever he was like, I fit in your backpack, or how do you think I would look with a bigger chassis, or something like that. It kind of lightens up the mood after having a rough strike. Like, if you're not expecting him to say it, it kind of gives you like a little chuckle, or you giving like a shit-eating grin. And some of the things, like infusing weapons or infusing your gear, I enjoyed that the most because you didn't really have to worry about grabbing a piece of gear that required a higher light than what you had on back in year one. You would used to be able to just now be able to just stick that higher piece of gear into the current gear set that you're wearing now and just go with the flow, and if nothing ever happened, your light got increased by maybe 1 or 2 points of light, and you would just go out about your merry way, which I enjoyed the most. But now I'm really just trying to get to level 400 and hopefully get some more gear to be able to pass along to my other characters to be able to do so. Then I can do whatever. I would like to start using my Warlock again here soon, but it'll be probably a little while before I'll be able to actually do so. Now, one of the other things that I really liked that I missed about year one was doing the Nightfall. Being so hyped to be able to actually do the Nightfall and actually complete it, because back then Nightfalls were hard. They would have like maybe 3 to 4 burns, well, a little over exaggeration, but they would generally have multiple burns and a lot of stuff that would be put against you, not really so much for you. If you had stuff that was going for you, you were lucky. in that sense that the RNG or whatever, the random luck or the generator that they had for the Nightfall was actually on your side and not so much towards the enemy side. And back then, whenever you died in the Nightfall, you wouldn't start from a checkpoint. No, you would get your ass taken back to orbit and start from the very beginning. So if you were like doing this Saber Strike here, and if you died at the very end here, like all of your party members got wiped, you would have to go back to orbit and start it all over again just to get back to this point. And I found that frustrating, but it would also increase your knowledge on not being so cocky and trying to get out there and go all ham like I was doing here. Like I was just trying to get some really good gameplay with my Titan because I was just doing some normal strikes here, some normal Siva Crisis strikes. And the good gear that Nightfall used to drop back then in year 1, you would almost be guaranteed on getting an exotic or at least a shit ton of strange coins to be able to get something good from Xur whenever he came around on the weekends. And that I was looking forward most to is whenever Xur would actually have something worth value on buying. Nowadays, he just doesn't have anything, which I'll touch upon in the bad section of what I didn't really like much about Destiny year 1 and all the little DLCs that followed afterwards. Now the 3 of coins, which something I looked forward to getting from Xur whenever I just bought the shit out of them. Like even if I had like, I don't know, what is it, like 5 or 6 strange coins that would be costing you to be able to purchase the 3 of coins, however much it was, I was just like, nope, don't give a fuck. I need those strange coins so I can get some exotics or at least a good chance of getting an exotic, something like that. I just needed to be able to get the better pieces of gear to start leveling up and getting my character up to like god status. But now we're going to touch upon the more negative things about Destiny that I didn't particularly like. Now keep in mind, this is all just my opinion, this is all just my thoughts about playing the game from back whenever it was still year 1. It was just literally ending year 1. Like, I started playing whenever the House of Wolves dropped, maybe like a half a month after House of Wolves dropped, and whenever Taken King was just about to release back in September of 2015. So the negatives that I have to talk about now are the whenever you were doing the raid, people not working with each other or not really listening or bitching and complaining about someone else screwing up. Because back whenever we did King's Fall, there was a particular person, I can't remember his name now, and I would actually have to go back and try and remember or ask somebody what his name was, but one time we were running my cousin through the raid, and it was his very first time actually doing the King's Fall raid, and we didn't tell them, like we didn't tell the 2 guys, like the one guy was okay with it at first, like he was just like, we were just gonna do it just to do it, but okay, that just means we actually have to teach him. The other guy was just being a complete fucking cockmunch about it the entire time. He was bitching like, oh, this new guy sucks ass, he's not doing he's not doing it well, he's blah 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 blah, bitching about it when it's his very first time going through the raid. That's the type of things that I hate sometimes about people who play Destiny, because they just expect people to know that what they're supposed to be doing or whatever. And the new Nightfalls, like the new current Nightfalls that we do now, all they hand out is like half-ass legendary gear that's just like 1-2 points lower than what you're trying to shoot for. Say you're at like level 395, that fucking shit would be dropping 393s for you sometimes, especially if it's an exotic. I think it would normally just be like a point lower if it was an exotic. But either way, it's still very frustrating to know that you just went through this hellish Nightfall, especially if it's like the Saber or the Nexus Strike that they have out now that they released with the Age of Triumph little update that they did as well. And And the old way of infusing weapons, that was another thing that irritated me as well. Whenever you would infuse a weapon, it would cut the attack points or the defense points by whatever you were infusing, whether it be freaking armor or weapons. It would cut the attack or defense points by half and only give you half the amount of credit that you got from a weapon. So let's say you got a weapon that was let's say you have a weapon right now that you had was about 250, and you get a weapon that's about 275. It would give you about 263 or something like that. It would generally cut it in half if people remember it whenever they jumped in by the launch of Taken King. And the other thing that I hated the most was Outbreak Prime's quest. Now I get it, it's supposed to be team oriented and everything like that, but most of the times whenever you do get people to do the raid, they're generally not going to be rocking like Hunter or Titan or Warlock. They're not going to be running a lot of the same class, like different classes. They're generally either going to be sticking towards Hunter or Titan, and sometimes the Warlocks, since people are actually getting more into the Warlocks now with the self-res. At least that's what I've been seeing with a lot of people so far. They're starting to do the whole Warlock with self-res, and I didn't really see that many people doing it outside of me whenever I started playing the Taken King. And just being able to do the Outbreak Prime quest itself was just a pain in the ass as is, because you had to go through and have 3 other people that are different class setups, Warlock, Titan, and Hunter, and be able to do it that way was just the most infuriating, because you have to make sure that people are rocking Titan and Hunter. Back whenever I got it on my Warlock, I think I got it on my Warlock. No, I got it on my Hunter. So I had to have someone else who was rocking Titan and Warlock whenever I went for it as well. Another thing that blows is playing by yourself. So in this instance here, I was playing by myself. Even though you saw people joining in my party chat, they were playing Black Ops 3. So I didn't really have anyone in here to be able to talk to or goof around with, because most of the times people are working or going into work or something like that, where we won't be able to actually talk to them or socialize or interact with them all that much. Especially today. I was hoping that JJ would be on, but I never heard anything from him either. One of the other things that irritated me the most was the strike changes. Like, I understand having some modifiers in the heroic strike playlist, but don't make it crazy, like almost like half of a nightfall strike. It just needs to be something more challenging to be able to make you feel like you've earned that loot. And I feel like with burns and everything like that, I think it should only be like 1 or 2 modifiers outside of the heroic modifier that they generally have on it. I don't know, I just feel like it would be better if they just limited to about 2 or 3 modifiers. Most likely 2. Raid weapons that weren't brought back as elemental types, even though they included it as exotics. The game's about over anyway. Why aren't you just not bringing it back as just a normal legendary weapon with elemental type damage, such as Fatebringer with normally Arc Burn? The game's about over anyway. It's not going to be too much longer until actually Destiny 2 releases. So why don't you just give people the freedom to actually just use whatever weapons they really care on using, and just let them enjoy the last update that you're probably going to be giving them. I don't think they're going to be releasing any more updates to extend the life of Destiny 1. But who knows? I could be completely wrong. We'll have to see in the future. The Taken enemies that were released in the Taken King were probably one of the worst enemy types that I could ever say I had to face. Mostly due to the fact with the goblins always shielding people's, or the the Centurions having like that little Axiom Bolt, the void little fucking tracker thing that follows you especially whenever they launch like 2 or 3 of them at you, and it's like Void Burn. It's one of the absolute fucking worst. It's just one of the other strikes. Like, now we're gonna talk about a little bit more of the strikes here. One of the most despicable fucking strikes I've ever played was the Fallen Saber strike, especially if it was either Taken or Fallen, where it had arc burn or solar burn, something to fuck you so hard in the ass where it just destroyed your time just trying to get through that strike in general, especially if it's the Nightfall. Most of the times we will not play that goddamn strike if it's the Nightfall, because it is just that difficult, especially with this one. If you get this one with like a solar or arc burn effect on the Shield Brothers strike, it is practically impossible and unplayable, because you will die and die and die and die again. A few more things. The boss fight with Crota, once they brought it up to 390 light, I feel like it's a little bit better than what it was. They changed a lot of the things that were glaring issues and a lot of the exploits that they used to do with the Crota's End raid, about, you know, jumping the bridge or something along those lines. I think the only thing that we ever did as far as an exploit goes, we would get one person to go across the bridge and have one person stand on top of that tower right wherever you would go down to activate the bridge and whatever, to have the one person go across. They would stand up in the tower there, get all of the enemies to despawn on our side, and the one person on the other side would go through and just destroy all the enemies. And once they killed everything there, we would be respawned back, and we would be able to progress through and go fight the wizards and everything like that. And the 3 of Coins, this is the last thing I'm going to touch upon really quick before this video ends. The 3 of Coins that were changed a lot, and not knowing when the actual cooldown time is. It'd been nice if they actually incorporated a cooldown time on the thing. Like, people just guesstimate or just make really good education guesses. Say, like, I believe I saw one that said pop one round, wait another, then pop one in the next round on the next mission, that sort of thing. But either way, I'm not ending Destiny. I'm not going to stop playing it. I'm still going to be doing a lot of videos on it, and I'm hopefully going to be touching upon a live stream whenever we actually get a lot of people together. It would just be really boring for me to cover Destiny by myself during a live stream. But either way, I'm going to leave you with one final clip here that I think is probably one of the best things that the Age of Triumph ever gave us, the cinematic cutscene. So either way, thank you so much again for watching. Subscribe to stay up to date. Click on the notification thing, and I will see you all in the next one.
From the day your ghost woke you, your light has been our beacon. You defended this city from the worst the darkness sent against us. Atheon, Crota, Oryx, Axis. When you are called on, you will do it again. The city's children tell your story to each other. Pretending to be guardians, they grow braver and more powerful with each retelling. They are no longer afraid. You have shown them, and you have shown me, what it is to hope. You have led us to a new age, Guardian. An age of triumph and remembrance. Today and tomorrow and every day, you fight for us. You fight for the traveler. You fight for those who fled here from 1,000 nations looking for refuge. We thank you, Guardian, and we will never forget.